Hello, welcome to Talking Right with John Mosman podcast. I am the aforementioned John Mosman. You can find out more information about me at my website, including links to all my social media, all my podcasts, blogs, everything at johnmosman.net. I've been thinking about for a long time how to broach this subject, about how to talk about something that has been weighing on me. For those who may not know, there was a time last year where I was very active in dialogue, debating with atheists. And part of the reason for that was the fact that I wanted all the best arguments for atheism. I wanted to understand how atheists saw things. So on my old show, John Mosman Live, I would interview atheists. Interviewed a couple of them at the same time. One of them was a good friend of mine, and his name is Jeremiah Bannister. For those who may know him, you may know him as Paleocrat. He is the host, one of the co-hosts of Paleo Radio, which is part of Secular Media Network now. And Jeremiah has always been an interesting person to me, just because of the fact that his story, his personal story, his journey from faith into atheism is interesting, and his journey in faith is also interesting, from going from a very charismatic, quote-unquote Protestant to Catholicism, and then finally to becoming an atheist. And of course, despite the fact that I am a Christian, and I disagree with the fact that I was really bummed by the fact that he went to atheism and the fact that he became an atheist, I've still greatly respected him, and I've greatly respected his talent and the commitment that he has as a father. And if you've ever followed him on Facebook, you know just how important being a father is to him, which is great. For those who may remember, those who don't remember, we did a show together on YouTube called Bandman Country. And the whole point of Bandman Country was to have a frolicking good time having a debate between an atheist and a Christian. And part of the reason why Bandman worked, and I think if it would have continued, and I'm going to continue to write a little bit more about Bandman Country, because there is something kind of a part of who I am that was very affected by Bandman Country being obsolete, being no more, after only 5 or 6 episodes. But the point is that this was a great show, and it worked because both of us respected each other. And sometimes that's hard to get in the internet community. It's hard to get in the interfaith community when you're dealing with people who have two completely different worldviews. And we had a lot of common ground. I still say to this day that Jeremiah is probably one of the most rational thinking atheists that I know. Because a lot of them are actually very dogmatic in their thinking, and dogmatic in their debate, and dogmatic in the way that very evangelical in the way that they try to present their message. But with all that said, there was a respect and a friendship there, and it was a comfortability knowing that if one of us wanted to go just a little bit over the top with our rhetoric, we wouldn't have to worry about the other person being as offended, because I knew it was part of kind of an entertainment was part of the faction, and I was really looking forward to continuing Bandman because I thought Bandman had an opportunity to present different sides and to present something that I thought could happen. I really thought could happen, and that was that you could truly have an atheist and a Christian produce something together, create something together, and really have it sustain. And there's probably a few people out there who can do that. I don't know how long it's going to last, because I have the feeling that eventually it won't. And that's a very sad prognosis of the state of affairs between Christians and atheists in America today. It's very heated. And there's a lot of hatred on both sides, unfortunately. And when you lose something like Bandman Country, it affects me. It woke me up to the fact that I realized that some things just can't be. And of course, part of it wasn't that Jeremiah was a bad guy or that I was a bad guy. It really was that Jeremiah was moving on to greater and better things. And I congratulate him on finally being able to achieve those goals. I felt hurt by the way things were done and handled. I would have liked in that time to have a little kind of idea and heads up, especially because I was planning the next Bandman Country and I was working on a website. And those who know me know that I love web design. And so I really was looking forward to it, and it was something that I thought could have really gone to the next level. And it would have. I'm sure of it. But things happened, and people's lives change. And it's very hard, especially when the fact that Jeremiah lives in Grand Rapids, Michigan, and I live in Grand Junction, Colorado, and they're way far away from each other. So it's not like I can go over to his house and go, okay, let's do the show now. Or work on his schedule with his kids and his family, And it's not like I expected him to be able to just do it whenever. I mean, I had some idea that Jeremiah had another show, that Jeremiah had another job, and that Jeremiah had his family duties that he had to do, to take care of his family, help support his family, and so all that happened, and I got really upset with Jeremiah. I did. I was really mad at him because I felt betrayed. And I don't. Looking back on it now, I don't think there was any maliciousness on his part. I think life got chaotic and things changed. And actually, little did I know, things would actually change a whole lot just a short time after Bandman Country stopped. For those who don't know about his life story, his family story, and about his daughter Sammy, you can go to hashtag Team Tiny Dancer. You can go to his Twitter page, which is at Paleocrat. Go to his Facebook, Jeremiah Bannister. And you can read up on this story of his daughter, who has had such... has had to endure a lot, and she seemed to have kept herself a bit about it. You can definitely tell she's strong. You can definitely tell that that she's been through a lot, and that whole family's been through a lot. And not only did Jeremiah had to put the kibosh on his show with his co-host Joe Elder. Which, if you're living in Grand Rapids, you need to check out Joe Elder's comedy sketches. I know he's an up-and-coming comedian, along with his other stuff that he does. Some of you may also know him from being on Southpaws. And, of course, him and Jeremiah on Paleo Radio. But he had to put a kibosh on that show as well. Life came and it hit with a ton of bricks, and silly things like Bandman Country, you know, their priorities put. And it took me a while to kind of come to grips with everything that happened, because I felt bad for Jeremiah. I felt bad for his family that they had to go through this. You know, I know there were a lot of things that they were looking to do. I know Jeremiah was looking to do. And his life changed. Suddenly changed. And so I kind of know now that even if Batman Country, even if he didn't have his previous engagement, because at that time he was working on a deal, him and Joe were working on a deal with I believe his name is Doug Smalley from Secular Media Network, and they were working on a deal for the show. And so I know that he kind of wanted to suspend other producing other shows and such forth, understandably. Especially if you sign any kind of no-compete clause. But I realize now, I have for a long time now, it's not like a sudden realization, oh my goodness, this just came to me. But I've realized that it would have happened anyways. Bandman Country would have been gone and done, and it would have been over anyways. And so I guess, for me, what I've had to come to terms with is understanding that just was never going to happen. That it run its course, and for the 5 or 6 episodes that we did, we had some good content and we had fun doing it. And I guess in the end, that's all that matters, right? And if you still want to watch these episodes, they're still available on YouTube. Episode 5 is my personal favorite, but because I'm a little ornery in that one towards him. But with that said, I realize that now, and I would still, I kind of took Jeremiah off on Facebook. I was really mad at him. I was really upset. I felt betrayed. And, when I found out about his daughter, Sammy, I found out what happened because they found out she had some rare form of brain cancer, if I'm correct in that. And, I would send a couple of messages to him saying, thoughts and prayers. And I'm still praying for that little girl. I'm still praying for the Bannister family. And I hope everything continues to improve for them. So now I kind of realize that maybe this wasn't necessarily just a thing of a problem with an atheist being unreliable kind of thing. It was kind of fate, but it kind of set me in a wrong kind of mentality. It kind of put me in a raw area, because at the same time I was also working with and doing some stuff with Christopher Tanner and the rest of the guys there at Atheist Analysis. And there was a couple of shows that we did that went really well. And then there was this idea to do a debate with Christopher on the issue of the Bible. And I felt we had kind of set in motion, this was what we were going to talk about, and this is what we're going to debate. And so it really upset me when Christopher brought up stuff that I felt was irrelevant to the debate. And I still think it was irrelevant to the debate. It was. They were kind of some pot shots. And I don't necessarily begrudge him for trying to do that now. I mean, I get that he was trying to put out some points, and maybe that was his strategy all along. But I kind of felt like I could have a good, honest debate with Chris. I thought we could maybe stay in this one topic. And I got really mad at him. I got really mad at Atheist Analysis, and I got really mad at a bunch of atheists. In fact, I shut down my entire conversation with atheists. Partly because I realized that there's some things you cannot expect to have a trust with, a talk with, a commodity with them on that. That when it comes to like debating and talking, those things are those attitudes about life, those worldviews and philosophies are just going to pop out, and they're going to come, and that's what happened. So, for me, I realize, as a Christian, you have to learn to forgive, and you have to learn to move on. You have to learn to do those things. It was very hard for me because these are people that I felt that I could trust, and I felt that my trust was betrayed and violated. And I just felt like, what's the point? What's the point of talking with atheists? What's the point of debating with atheists? What's the point of even at all? And I still think there's a lot of things that Christians and atheists can't debate about, that they shouldn't talk about. And I think there's some things you can't talk with atheists about. It's like talking about someone about a subject that they will never understand. They'll never get. It'll still be an element to it that they'll not understand. And that kind of flared up recently on Twitter about a back and forth that I had with Chris and some of the other guys there at Atheist Analysis about marriage. And unfortunately, they wanted me to kind of go into a full debate on Twitter, and I'm sorry, it's kind of hard to do that on Twitter. You're limited to what you have to do. And instead of having this huge thread of all these different messages, the thing of it is that the issues and the ideas I had weren't because I didn't want to argue. I just didn't want to argue on that platform. And I also believe as well that there's some things that I'm realizing, what's the point? I could say that one of the biggest reasons why Christians, one of the reasons why we say, that gay marriage is wrong, that it's not traditional marriage, that it's not marriage at all, is because we understand that Christ was the groom and the church is the bride. We have specific language within the Bible that talks about that, and we understand that in marriage between a man and a woman, that is exemplified. It says it in the New Testament. It said St. Paul says it in Corinthians. He talks about how men and women should act and how they should be. Men should be like Christ. And that goes back to another reason why a lot of us traditional Christians, Orthodox Christians, do not believe in women or ordination. It's for the same reason, understanding that Christ is the icon upon which he is the figure for those things. And so on top of there being a moral issue, see, that's the part of it, is that it's not just a moral issue here. There's a symbolic theological language that's being spoken here that is doctrine, that edifies doctrine, that speaks to that. And that's something that I don't think a lot of atheists will understand. Just like it's hard for a lot of Protestants to understand what a lot of Lutherans and Anglicans and Catholics and Orthodox, how we view the sacrament of the altar, how we view that when we participate in the Lord's Supper, in the Eucharist, that we are taking on Christ's body and blood. Literally. It's there. So, there's a lot of things that are hard to discuss with people. And there's going to be some things where, for Christians, we can't always explain why we know that or why we believe that. Because we know that not everything in our beliefs are credited to us actually cognitively thinking about it. That some of the information that we've received is from an external source outside of ourselves. But that's a different conversation. But so there was that. And to be honest with you, I still am a bit weary of trying to debate atheists. Not because I don't think that I can't debate or that I don't have a good argument. It's that at some point you have to ask yourself why. And there was a point where I thought maybe interfaith conversations could happen, and that people can find agreements in some things and that we can find common ground. But usually that doesn't happen, especially now in our society and our culture, where everything in our culture is anti-Christian. It is. Our culture is bucking with the traditional Christian ideas of society, of the world, yada, yada, yada. So it's very hard. And what point do we say, do I go into this long-winded conversation with somebody and try to convince them of something I know they're not going to believe? You know, and that's why when I first started talking with atheism, I first wanted to get their idea of what the world was, but then I wanted to try to get an idea of what we could be in constant agreement with. But the feeling that I get from a lot of atheists today is that they don't want agreement. They think Christians, they think religion are bad guys. They think religion is the problem. And you can't reason with someone who thinks that you and your beliefs are what's wrong with society. While I might disagree with atheists, I don't want to try to take them out of the forefront of what's going on. I don't want to eliminate them, you know. I don't care if an atheist runs for president. I don't care if an atheist and in fact I've said it before with even Jeremiah Bannister, that on our show Batman Country, that I think there are some places where people need to say, look, this is not the place to talk about religion. And if anything, my whole understanding of that's now come to a full, complete understanding of it, because now I realize that there's some people you can't talk about religion with. You can't. You can't talk to some people about a lot of things, right? You know, there's people you just can't talk to about certain subjects. You can't. And so that should be even more of a reason why I do believe in some places, you know, it's best not to talk about religion. I know that's hard for people who are religious, because we're told, especially Christians, we're told to go baptize all nations, to preach, to go out there. But I don't think that is as evangelical as they think it is. I don't think it means going out and, you know, disturbing somebody on a Saturday. I think it means build your church up. It means build the church up. It means bring people to the church. And you don't do that by clobbering them over the head. And I've never felt that way. But I really do think that, you know, it's hard. And I know that there's a certain amount of things that I can't establish with atheists, and especially some of the more militant atheists. I can't. And I just have to say, you know what? You're a good person. You're a nice person. You're a smart person. I respect what you do, but we have to agree to disagree, and just leave it at that, and then move on. And it's getting harder, though, for us Christians, because our values are being under attack. And now I'm not saying that there's a war on Christianity the same way that other Protestants. So don't even put that in my mouth. That's not what I'm saying. Okay? What I'm saying is that the culture is changing. And for Orthodox Christian people, this society is becoming further and further and further away. And I think there should be some expectation that society would be a bit away right? I mean, when you think about when the Christians first started, they were always minorities. At the beginning, they were minorities, and it spread like wildfire. But we were minorities in Rome for a while. We were minorities in Jerusalem for a while. And then Christianity did take place, you know. And there are places throughout the world, throughout the history of time, where Christianity was not a welcome sight. Some would let us exist, and some wouldn't. But the reality is, you know, not to win a popularity contest, right? And yet I come to all of these things because I want to clear it out. And I want to tell everyone at Atheist Analysis, I want to tell Jeremiah Bannister. I want to tell Joe Elder. I want to tell every one of those atheists that I've had great encounters before with. I respect you guys. I respect that what you're trying to do. I completely disagree. I think you guys are dead wrong. And I think in the end you're going to pay for it with your lives eternally. But I love you. And I hope the best for you guys. And I'm praying for you guys, especially Jeremiah and his family. I hope that little girl gets better and continues to have a full life, full of possibilities. And thankfully we're living in a time of scientific advancement where her life can be improved. And I do feel, that I think there were some things that people did that they could have done better. But I also understand that I personally was angry. I was very upset. And I probably was a little bit more sensitive to it than I should have been. And I'm sorry if I said anything or did anything to upset you or hurt your feelings. That was not my intent. I just was really hurt. And I will still like to talk to you guys. It will be very limited. Because, I just don't even know. And maybe that's something you guys can also talk to other people on your end. Can you guys talk to Christians? There's a long history here between the two different worlds' views, and bad things have happened on both sides. No doubt about it. My hope, though, is that we can try to respect each other a little bit more. It just means that I'll have some guidelines. And I'm not going to fall for some of those tricks that some of the atheists do. I'm not. Right? Oh, if you don't want to talk about it, I guess you don't know what the hell you're talking about. Bullshit. Excuse my French. There are people who are perfectly able, smart, intelligent, who choose just not to talk about it, or know that there will be no point in talking about it. Because there's not going to be any kind of, with debate, there's a point where someone has to win. See, that's the thing a lot of people don't know about debate. I did debate in high school and college, and there's a point where you have to learn that you have to say, can I win a debate? And when it comes to things of religious values, that's probably the toughest one to win. Either side. For a lot of different reasons. But I wanted to come clear, I wanted to come clean and tell you guys that I'm sorry what I said. I know I probably reacted a little bit more harshly than I should have, and I went overboard. I'm not going to deny that. And I realize now that with everything considered, there's a reason why things happened, and I can accept that. And I'll move on. And I like where I'm at now. Talking Right in the future as it evolves is going to be about me talking about being conservative, about being a Christian, about these values which are becoming less and less valued in our society. And I tried to talk about other people. I tried to interview other people. I tried to see if there could be some common core to what we have. And right now, I feel like as much as that's an important thing, I just don't know if that exists as much as I used to think it did. And secondly, I think right now, what I want to do is to talk about those values and try to speak in a very positive, maybe more heartfelt way, and do that. And I appreciate you all listening to me. You go to my website, you can find links to all my Twitter accounts, my YouTube account, everything there. It's got great stuff. I thank you guys for listening, and we'll be back next week with another podcast episode of Talking Right with John Mosman. I am John Mosman. Thank you very much. God bless. Have a good day.